Hey everybody, it's Byron, and I'm not looking at you because I am driving a brand new Ford Mustang Mach-E. This has the Ford BlueCruise 1.2 version, which has a few updates. This is Ford's semi-self-driving highway suite. We're going to take it out onto some controlled freeway here in the Northwest Detroit burbs and see how well it works. Bear in mind, BlueCruise is not supposed to be a full level 3 self-driving system. It operates only on the highway like GM Super Cruise or Tesla's original Autopilot. It is not meant to be a competitor to Tesla's FSD system, which tries to actually drive the car on surface streets.
In 1/4 mile, be in either of the 2 left lanes, then keep left.
And right on cue, we are getting onto Michigan 5. This is a limited access freeway.
The 2 left lanes, then keep left.
Which is BlueCruise enabled.
Continue 4.5 miles on N5.
And the system has just indicated in the dashboard here that it is ready. So off we go. From this point on, we are in BlueCruise. And it is indicating hands-free, which I am now doing. So in the 1.2 version of BlueCruise, we can initiate a pass simply by tapping the turn indicator. At this point, I don't need to. I've got clear road ahead. I'm doing 70, which is the speed limit here on this stretch of 5. And we're going to take it up here a little bit farther to the northwest. We're going to see just what happens when you run out of limited access highway. Theoretically, the system should just shut itself off and prompt me to take over again. We'll see what happens. Okay, so far so good. Now we've come up on some slower traffic here in the right lane, so I am going to take my hands off the wheel, hit the turn signal. BlueCruise is checking the lane, making sure it's free. It's moved me over. There, completely hands-free lane change. All I had to do was tell the computer it's what I wanted. All right, we're now past that truck. I'm going to ask BlueCruise to initiate another lane change. It checks the lane. It's content there's nothing there. It moves us over. Turns the signal off, lane change completed. So far, so good. So one thing about BlueCruise, it cannot decide when you need to make a pass for you. Some self-driving systems can actually decide when slower traffic is in front of you and actually make the pass for you. With BlueCruise, you still have to hit the turn signal sock to initiate the lane change. So it's not going to decide for me that I need to go around slow traffic in front of me. I have to make that decision. But once I have, the car does everything for me.
Be in the right lane. On the right, towards Port Huron. Continue 5 miles on N5.
So in order to actually make that exit, I had to tell the car that I wanted to exit. I had to hit the right turn indicator to actually tell the car, yes, we want to be in the exit lane. We want to make that move. It has again alerted me to resume control here as the road is starting to revert to a surface street. It's still indicating ready, but it's no longer showing the drive indicator that tells me that it will actually steer the car itself. So now that we've reverted to a surface street, BlueCruise has handed control back off to me, which it did a little ways before the highway actually ended. So technically speaking, perhaps jumping the gun just a little bit. But if you'll recall, there was a rather bad accident in California just a couple years back where a Tesla running on autopilot blasted through the end of a divided highway onto a surface street, through a traffic light, and T-boned a car, killing one of the occupants. So obviously you don't want a car to be too aggressive about coming off of self-driving when you're approaching a surface street. At the same time, as a driver, you need to be aware that that's going to happen. The new version of BlueCruise also has a couple features that we may not be able to test out today, including one that actually spaces the car a little more conservatively when you're surrounded by other traffic. Okay, so we've completed the first leg of our trip. We're going to double back around here and head toward downtown Detroit. All right, so we're out here on what we might call a surface highway. We're still in a rural area outside of the Detroit suburbs. Okay, we are now back on a limited access highway, and BlueCruise is doing its thing. I don't technically need to be holding the wheel, but I am anyway. We're coming up to a little interchange here. We're probably going to, yep, it's slowing down, easing into the turn here. My hand is basically for show. BlueCruise doing its thing. Fortunately, this time around, we don't actually need to signal a turn because we can stay in this lane. Easy peasy. Through the interchange here, BlueCruise has again disengaged. The adaptive cruise control took over, of course. So until we clear the interchange and this construction area, I'm the one in charge of steering. So one thing I'm noticing while doing lane changes is that the system's actually very sensitive to inputs. So when I hit this turn signal indicator to move over while it's in self-driving mode, I really can't touch the wheel until it's done, because otherwise it will assume that I'm trying to override that input and it'll shut it down. So I hit the left turn signal indicator, and it figures it out, and it moves to the left. Shuts off the indicator. Hit the right turn indicator. It thinks about it. It does its thing. Shuffles over to the right. Turns off the indicator. Now, if I do that same thing while I'm holding the wheel, watch. Boom. I've already canceled it. Just that tiny bit of torque on the wheel was enough to tell it, nope, you shouldn't do that. The driver is saying something is dangerous about this, something is unsafe, or they've just changed their mind. It's time to abort that maneuver. This is maybe not a great thing. I'm also noticing that I've been slowly approaching this car in the right lane. As I've gotten closer, the car has actually backed off on the speed a little bit. It seems to be dropping between 70 and 69. I'm assuming that this is because it's trying to create a little bit of space between me and that car so that I'm not pacing it right next to it. And now I just hit the brakes again. The speed limit changed. And it will helpfully speed up, slow down for you as the speed limit changes. Whether you actually want that to happen is a whole different ballgame. Going through a bit of a sweeping turn here, and I'm noticing the kind of typical highway self-driving behavior where everything happens in increments. The wheel turns a bit, turns a bit, turns a bit, straightens out in between each of those corrections, trying to find a path through the turn. And because systems like SuperCruise and BlueCruise are theoretically using pre-mapped routes, the system should know exactly what radius that curve is, should know exactly how to dial in steering, how to dial it back out. But in the real world, that lane might not actually be doing what the map thinks it should be. So, say there's a cone in it, say there's a driver kind of awkwardly darting in and out of their lane. The car can't be pre-programmed to do everything. Conditions will often prohibit that. The system's wonkiness is being exacerbated a bit by today's weather. The wind is blowing rather aggressively, kind of shoving the car around a bit. Fortunately, BlueCruise seems to be able to compensate for that pretty effectively. The ride is not uncomfortable or unpleasant. Just cruising right along. Potentially passing this Ram van. We'll see what happens here. He may speed up to pace us, as is typical with American drivers. Pass has been completed. Now going to ask BlueCruise to change lanes back over to the right, which it says we can do just fine. There we go. We're now behind another fantastic American driver, this one who's riding their brakes. You can see the third brake light illuminated as we cruise down the road here. Has been since I entered the highway a few miles back. So that's going great. We're reaching the end of the freeway here. We're still in hands-free mode. However, it should automatically disable. We're slowing down because of third brake up here. We're now at a 45 mile an hour limit. The system is reducing speed down to 45. We're still in hands-free mode though. We're still on a dedicated freeway. This is limited access until we reach the stoplight up here. And there's my alert. So the short version is, it seems to do everything it's supposed to do and does it pretty well. It's difficult to test this kind of space management system that has been introduced with the latest update, but that's a fact of life. Real world traffic's unpredictable. It might be a little easier to test it on a long highway cruise. We were going cross country, or at least across the state. So that's something for us to test out next time. For now, that's BlueCruise version 1.2 in the 2023 Ford Mustang Mach-E. Thanks for joining.